I'm Dhruti, you're watching TimesXP and welcome to the top US news today. A Gujarati man named Kiran Kumar J. Patel was arrested in Effingham County, Georgia. He runs a store over there. The police say that he sold cigarettes to a person who's under 21 years of age, which is against the law in the United States. Now, in the US, it is illegal to sell tobacco products like cigarettes to anybody under the age of 21. To check if stores follow all the rules, local police sometimes send dummy customers. These dummy customers look older than 25 to 27 years of age, but they actually are 21. Because they look older, many people don't ask for their ID, and if the store sells cigarettes without checking the age, they can get caught. Kiran Patel was arrested on May 17 after he gave cigarettes to a dummy customer without checking his ID. Selling tobacco to minors is not a very serious crime, but it can cause problem if the same thing happens many times. Usually, the person pays a small fine and the person is released. However, this kind of trouble can affect a person's immigration status. If a person in the US has a green card, committing crimes can make it harder to get a US citizenship later on. If somebody is trying to get a green card, problems like this can actually delay the process. When people apply for US citizenship, the government agency called USCIS looks carefully at their background. Applicants must tell the truth about all their past problems with the law, even if the case was closed or was very small minor offense. For example, let me tell you, if a person was caught selling cigarettes to a minor or even got a ticket for traffic violation, it might stop them from becoming a citizen for 2 or more years. Also, in many states, specifically Republican-led ones, local police share information about arrested people's immigration status with the federal government. This helps federal authorities find people who may be living in the US illegally, and they can start with the deportation process. Now, many Gujaratis live in the US without legal papers. Some have final deportation orders too, but still live in the country. Well, this is risky because even small offenses like selling tobacco to a minor can lead to deportation. For example, the Trump administration cancelled student visas over small cases like traffic ticket. So, an undocumented immigrant arrested for selling cigarettes to a minor could face deportation too. People who recently came to the US, specifically in the last 2 to 3 years, and who have asylum applications pending, need to be more careful not to get into any trouble with the law. A tragic story has come from the United States. A man from Gujarat, India was shot and killed in his shop by a man who came and he pretended to be a customer. The victim's name was Paresh Patel and he came from a very small village in Gujarat. Many families from that particular village have relatives working or studying in foreign countries. People from that village often dream of building a better life abroad, just like Paresh did. Now let me tell you what exactly happened. Paresh was running a small shop in the US, just like many other Indian immigrants who open convenience stores, gas stations, or grocery shops. One day, a man walked in the shop acting like a regular customer, but this man had a hidden plan. He pulled out a gun and tried to rob the shop. CCTV video shows that Paresh followed the robber's instructions and gave him the money. But shockingly, after taking the money, the robber still shot Paresh and ran away. Paresh died on the spot. His family in India is heartbroken and the Indian community in the US is shaken. But you know what the sad part is? This is not the very first time that such incident has happened. In the year 2023, the Indian government said that 86 Indian nationals were attacked or killed in different countries. Let me share the numbers. 12 Indians were killed or attacked in the United States, 10 in Canada, 10 in the United Kingdom, 10 in Saudi Arabia. These are official numbers that are shared by Minister of State for External Affairs Kirti Vardhan Singh in the Indian Parliament. Well, the question is, what is Indian government doing about it? Indian government is supporting. The government has said that the safety of Indians living in foreign countries is a top priority. Indian embassies in different countries are told to watch closely for any incident and talk to local police whenever something goes wrong. The goal is to make sure that crime against Indians are fully investigated, the criminals are punished, families of victims get help and support, but for many Indian families, specifically those from villages in Gujarat or Punjab, this is not enough. They are scared. Their loved ones are working really hard abroad, sometimes doing small jobs with long hours, and then they face danger every single day. Many Indian immigrants, specifically those in the US, work in late night stores, gas stations, and small shops, often in areas that are not very safe. Robbers sometimes target them because A. They are alone, B. Their shop handle cash, C. They may not call police out of fear or lack of English. Also, many of these workers don't have full support legally, which makes them more vulnerable. Let's look at a bigger picture here. Villages in Gujarat, where people like Paresh come from, is very well known in Gujarat for sending people abroad. In fact, many young people from these villages dream of settling in countries like the US and Canada. But not all stories end happily. Some end in tragedy, just like this one. In a striking example of the lengths human smugglers will go to invade law enforcement, authorities in Texas uncovered a highly unusual and dangerous method of transporting undocumented migrants, hiding them inside hollowed-out hay bales. Well, the discovery was made during a routine traffic stop in a quiet stretch of Interstate 10 near the small town of Flantonia, when a sheriff deputy pulled over a white Ford F-250 truck hauling a trailer filled with large round bales of hay. What initially appeared to be a routine inspection quickly turned into a criminal investigation when the deputy noticed signs of tampering and proceeded to examine the bales more closely. To the deputy's astonishment, 12 undocumented migrants were found concealed inside the hay. The bales had been expertly modified, with smugglers constructing hidden compartments using a metal frame covered by layers of hay. These small enclosed spaces were barely large enough to fit a person and presented significant danger to those hidden inside, including the risk of suffocation, dehydration, or injury from prolonged confinement. Sheriff described the concealment method as not only deceptive but profoundly hazardous to human life, underscoring the desperation and exploitation that often characterize human trafficking networks. The driver of the truck, identified as 44-year-old man from Kansas, was immediately arrested and later taken to a local hospital for medical evaluation. Although, let me tell you, the sheriff's office did not describe the nature of his medical condition, he now faces serious charges under both state and federal smuggling law. Further investigation led to the apprehension of the two additional individuals believed to be the organizers of the operation, 22-year-old and 25-year-old men. Both are now facing charges related to illegal transport of migrants through Texas highway. In the meantime, the 12 individuals hidden within the hay bales were transferred to the US Immigration and Customs Enforcement for further proceeding. Depending on their individual circumstances, they may face deportation, detention, or legal proceeding relating to asylum claims. While their nationalities have not been disclosed, the case echoes a growing trend in migrant smuggling involving individuals not only from Latin America but also from Africa, Asia, and Indian subcontinent, many of whom pay thousands of dollars to criminal networks for a promise of safer passage into the United States. Well, this incident also reflects a broader shift in smuggling strategies as border enforcement has tightened. Law enforcement officials say that smugglers are now relying on increasingly elaborate and risky methods. The H-1B visa situation in the United States is once again causing concern, specifically for the Indian professionals who dream of working in the US. Recently, the US Immigration Agency announced that only 120,141 H-1B applications were selected for the financial year 2026. Let me tell you, this is the lowest number in the years, and it comes at a very important time when the US tech sector is still struggling with mass layoffs. Now, here's what's worrying people. The H-1B visa is supposed to help American companies bring in skilled foreign workers when they can't find qualified people in the US. But many experts say that the system is not working the way it should. Right now, when the number of applications go above the allowed limit, the US government does a random lottery to decide who gets selected. It doesn't matter how skilled or talented the person is. It's just pure luck. Now, this lottery system is being criticized heavily. Some say that it doesn't reward the most qualified candidates and doesn't actually solve the problem of job shortage in the US. In fact, many believe that some companies are using the H-1B visa just to hire cheaper workers from abroad instead of giving good paying jobs to American graduates. In the meantime, critics say that this hurt both the US workers and talented foreign professionals who truly deserve these jobs based on skills and merit. Now, to understand the number, then every single year the US gives out only 65,000 regular H-1B visas, plus another 20,000 for people with US master's degree. So that's about 85,000 in total. But when over a few lakh application comes in, most people get rejected simply because of the random draw. And who applies the most? Indians. Years after years, Indian engineers, IT professionals, STEM graduates fill a large portion of the H-1B applicant pool. So, when the system is unfair, Indians lose the most. Well, there's another problem too. Some people are saying that companies are misusing the H-1B process. To apply for a visa, a company must already offer a job to the worker. But critics claim that these companies may not actually be creating new jobs. Instead, they might be planning future layoffs of current employees and simply keeping these H-1B roles ready to replace existing workers with cheaper labor. And that's the serious concern. Now, for Indian families, this is a really stressful time. Many talented Indian professionals study in top US universities, do internships and apply for H-1B visas just with hopes of settling in America. But the current system feels like a gamble, not a merit-based process. A person could spend lakhs of rupees on their education, live in the US for years and still get rejected just because their name wasn't lucky enough to be pulled in the lottery. Now, this unfairness has led to growing calls for the change. People are asking the US government to reform the H-1B system to make it more merit-based, transparent and focused on real skill shortage. They want to see checks in place so that companies don't exploit the system and use H-1Bs just to cut cost. Now, from an Indian perspective, it is clear. India provides some of the best talents in the world, specifically in tech and STEM fields. Indians are not trying to take American jobs. The United States has announced a new visa rule that could create serious problems for thousands of Indians who are living, studying or working over there. This new immigration rule is called catch and revoke policy. Under this rule, even one legal mistake by a foreigner, like breaking a law or being involved in any sort of criminal activity, can lead to the instant cancellation of their visa. Yes, even a single strike is enough to lose your right to stay in the US. Well, this policy was introduced by US Secretary of State Marco Rubio. Marco said that visas are a privilege and not a right. Earlier, during the Biden administration too, many people were arrested, but they were still allowed to stay in the country under a softer policy known as catch and release. But this approach is now gone. In its place comes catch and revoke, which is far stricter and gives no second chances. According to Rubio, any foreign national caught breaking the US law will now lose their visa immediately. He made it very clear that the days of misusing American hospitality are over. Well, this change directly affects a large number of Indian citizens, specifically those on H-1B work visas and F-1 student visas. Indians make up a huge percentage of the workforce in the US tech companies and universities too. Many have worked really hard for years, followed all the rules, and spent lakhs of rupees to build a life in the US. But now, even one small legal mistake or bad decision could put everything at risk. Let me give you an example. If somebody is accused of breaking the law, even if it's something as minor as getting into a fight or a serious crime, their visa can be cancelled without any notice. The US government has already started taking action, by the way. The US Citizenship and Immigration Services is now sending out requests for evidence to many visa applicants. Now, this means that if there is any negative or suspicious information in your life, you must prove your innocence first. Otherwise, your visa could be denied or revoked. Employers are also becoming more careful as hiring somebody with a visa is now a bigger risk. If the visa gets cancelled, their employee must have to leave immediately, disrupting the business. Now, one more serious point to note is that the US government is also checking whether visa holders have ever supported or promoted terrorist activity, even online. If somebody is found posting or sharing anything that appears to support terrorism, or if they are linked to terrorist groups, even indirectly, their visa will be cancelled instantly. Rubio said that law enforcement agencies will now carefully examine the background of every student and temporary worker. Anybody found abusing the US hospitality will be removed immediately. The United States housing market is going through a very difficult time, and it's affecting everybody, including the Indian immigrants and investors who dream of owning a property in America. Now, here, one of the biggest reasons behind slowdown is US President Donald Trump's decision to impose heavy tariffs on imported goods. These tariffs have specifically hit the construction industry, where materials like steel, lumber, and aluminium, many of which come from countries like China and India, are now more expensive. A tariff is basically a kind of tax on goods that are bought into a country from abroad. So, if an American company imports a building material from another country, it has to pay more money, and that extra cost is usually passed on to the home buyers. Trump had once placed a 145% tariff on Chinese goods, though it has now been reduced to 30%. But uncertainty remains, as the US has only finalized a trade deal with the UK, and deals with over 80 other countries, including India, are still pending. In April 2024, new data from the US Census Bureau and the Department of Housing and Urban Development showed that construction of single-family house dropped by 12% as compared to the previous year. Also, permits for the new home construction, which usually predict future building activity, declined by 5.1% from March and by 2.6% from April 2023. Now, this shows that many builders are holding back on starting new projects. Inflation has already made lives very expensive for everybody out there. Grocery, fuel, rent, everything costs more, and high mortgage rates have made it even harder to afford a home. Now, with the rise in building costs due to tariffs, homes are becoming much more expensive, and builders are afraid to take financial risk in such uncertain times. The situation is specifically harder for Indian professionals and families in the US. Many Indian migrants, specifically in IT, healthcare, and engineering, come to the US on work visa and they hope to eventually buy a home. But with rising cost, high loan interest rates, and fewer homes available in the market, many of them are choosing to wait. The cost of living has increased, and inflation has reduced how much people can actually afford. In the meantime, builders say that their suppliers have increased the prices because of the tariffs. In a recent survey, nearly 60% of builders said that materials now cost more, and it's making construction projects harder to plan. There is also a lot of confusion in the market, by the way. Trump has delayed tariff for over 80 countries and said that those particular countries could negotiate trade deals. But since most deals haven't been finalized, builders don't know whether tariffs will go up or they will stay low. Now, this has made the entire housing industry very cautious. At the very same time, buyers are scared too. In April, after Trump announced reciprocal tariff, stock markets dipped and people started to worry about a possible recession. As a result, many who wanted to buy a house have postponed their plans, unsure of what's coming next under Trump's rule. Now, from an Indian perspective, then this situation is frustrating too. Many Indians in the US work very hard, save money, hope to own a home as a symbol of their success. But with current conditions, buying a house is no longer a smart or affordable option for many. Even Indian investors looking at the US real estate are holding back because home prices are high and rental incomes isn't keeping up with investment cost. Here's a question for you. Why do so many smart and talented Indians move to the United States? And why can't India keep all this talent at home? Recently on social media, people started asking about this issue again and again. Some users shared their thoughts and asked important questions about brain drain when educated people leave their home country to work somewhere else. One person said something really interesting. A small part of India's population moves abroad and sends money back home to their families in India. This was called remittance. In 2023, India received over $125 billion in remittances, the highest in the world. Many of these people are also returning after a few years with new skills and experience. Some of them even start companies or invest in India. So, yes, brain drain is real, but it also has some benefits. But another user said something really different. They argued that India doesn't provide the right environment to keep top talent. Let me give an example. There is a low investment in research and development. In 2022, India spent only 0.7% of its total GDP on R&D as compared to the US's 3.5%, China's 2.4%. Also, job security is low and there's a lot of government red tape, meaning paperwork, rules, and delays. So, the US becomes attractive because it offers better pay, stronger research labs, global companies, and more freedom to innovate. Then, another person made a bold statement. Even India's leaders celebrate when citizens get jobs abroad. It's true that Indian leaders, including Prime Minister Narendra Modi, have praised the Indian diaspora, people of Indian origin living abroad, as a source of pride. This shows how much India values global success. But at the very same time, it also makes people wonder, is India unknowingly encouraging more people to leave? These comments open a bigger question. Is the US using India's best brains for its own benefit? Or is India still not ready to give them the tools that they need to success at home? Well, is this a healthy give and take, or is it one-sided? One social media user said that it's a great news. This isn't just about blaming the US or India, it's about which country builds a better ecosystem, a place where talented people feel safe, respected, and excited to work. Let's be honest here. India has made huge progress. We have top companies like Infosys, TCS, and growing startups like Zomato. India's space missions are doing quite well and our youth are more skilled than ever. But to keep them, India needs to invest more in innovation, reduce red tape, and create more high-paying, research-driven jobs. The US has always been a magnet for Indian talent because it already has this system. But if India can improve its own ecosystem, many young people won't feel the need to leave. Let's talk honestly. Indian IT professionals are some of the best, hard-working and talented people in the world. From building websites to coding apps and fixing bugs all night long, they are the powerhouse of the global tech hub, specifically for American companies. But what happens when that hard work is treated like a machine job instead of a human effort? Recently, a post on Reddit by an Indian software engineer went viral. It wasn't full of anger, it was full of truth. The title was, "To my American friends who outsource to India, please chill." In it, the person shared what many Indian tech workers feel but rarely spoke out loud. The pressure is too much and the respect is too little. Imagine this. Fresh graduates in India earn about 7 lakh rupees a year, sometimes less than that. Yet they are expected to work like Silicon Valley engineers who may be earning 10 or 15 times more. And on the top of that, they work late into the night to match the US time zone, attend endless meetings, and face the lazy last minute deadlines. It's exhausting. As the post said, we are not machines, we are human beings. But here's where the story takes a surprising turn. Many people who read the post, they replied, and they didn't blame the American companies. Instead, they pointed out fingers at Indians who have moved to the US and now they manage teams back in India. Yes, you heard it right. One person commented, "It's not the Americans who micromanage, it's us. It's Indians in the US who act like mini bosses." Others said that American might say, "Get back to me this week," but an Indian manager in the US will message you 11 p.m. asking if you're ready for a 9 a.m. meeting. Well, these replies caught fire because so many people related to them. This tells us a very different story. The problem isn't just about money or hours. It's about respect and work culture. The Indian corporate world has long been known for tight deadlines, late night work, and bosses who expect too much. And now that culture is being carried abroad by Indian managers who forget what it feels like to be on the ground in India. Let's be clear, outsourcing itself is not the villain. It brings jobs, it builds skills, and it put India on the global map. But the way it's managed needs to be changed. Indian techies are not here just to tick boxes. They are young professionals with dreams, families, and mental health needs too. It's time for everybody out there, specifically those in power, to listen. Whether it's an Indian manager sitting in New Jersey or a CEO sitting in Bangalore, you must all remember, tech talent is not about cheap labor. It's about smart, hard-working people. A recent social media post by a Florida-based musician has triggered an emotional and controversial debate about Indian migrants, Hindi-speaking workers, and H-1B visa programs in the US. Well, the discussion started when Sean Carpenter, a self-described Republican and supporter of MAGA movement, posted on X. He posted after hearing 3 airport gate agents speaking in Hindi at Washington, D.C. airport. In his post, he questioned why Indians were working at the US airport gates and concluded with the statement, "H-1B is a complete fraud." While his post was brief, the reactions were not. His comments sparked a lot of debate, sparking intense argument about the role of Indians in the US workforce, the purpose of H-1B visa, and the assumptions made about immigrants based on language alone. His claims seemed to suggest that the agents that he overheard were in the US because of the H-1B visa, a statement that many found misleading and misinformed. The H-1B visa is a very well-known US program designed for high-skilled foreign professionals, primarily in fields like technology, science, engineering, and medicine. According to official data from the US Citizenship and Immigration Services, Indian nationals received approximately 72.3% of all H-1B visas issued between October 2022 and September 2023. This overwhelming majority reflects how Indian talent has become essential in powering America's modern economy, specifically in the tech sector. However, what many people fail to realize, as this person also did, is that H-1B visas are not issued for low-skilled jobs such as airport gate agents. These positions are generally filled by the US citizen or permanent residents. Therefore, it is highly likely that the individual that he mentioned were either Indian American born in the US or immigrants with permanent legal status and not H-1B holders. Online response quickly corrected his claims. Several users pointed out that being bilingual or speaking Hindi in public does not make somebody a foreign worker. Others explained that H-1B workers are brought in only when companies cannot find Americans to fill critical skilled positions. Some commenters also took a personal tone, describing how rising hostility towards immigrants is fueling anxiety and division, specifically as people in traditional sector feel left behind by globalization and technology. Now, from an Indian perspective, this incident reflects a deeper misunderstanding of the contribution that Indians make globally, specifically in countries like the US, where the demand for Indian talent has only increased over time. Indian professionals, whether in tech companies, hospitals, research labs, or even universities, have played a crucial role in building bridges between two democracies and shaping the digital economy. Speaking Hindi or any other Indian language should not be cause for suspicion. My neighbors complained about the smell of Indian food. What should I do? Well, this is a common question asked by many Indians living abroad, specifically in countries like the US, Canada, or even Europe. Indian food is really famous all around the globe for its delicious taste and rich spices. But sometimes the strong aroma of Indian cooking, specifically during tadka, frying onion, or cooking dal or curry, can cause issues with neighbors, specifically in apartments or closely built houses. Recently, an NRI shared his concern online. He asked how people living in Western countries can enjoy Indian food at home without upsetting their neighbors due to the strong cooking smell. He wasn't angry or defensive, just looking for helpful advice. Let's focus on the complaints first. Some foreigners aren't used to the strong smell of Indian spices. In some cases, they say that they are allergic. Others say that they don't like the smell of curry or frying. In Florida, a woman even posted online asking how to block out the smell of Indian food coming from her neighbor's home. So, what can you do? Well, internet has all the answers. Many Indians living abroad replied to this NRI's questions with helpful tips. Not to stop cooking, but to cook smartly and respectfully. And here is what they said. First of all, use a charcoal filter in the kitchen hood. One person said that he spends about 20 euros every few months for a good quality of charcoal filter. These filters help reduce the cooking smell from going outside. Secondly, ventilation is the key. Many advise to keep windows open while cooking and even for some times after you're done. Turn on exhaust fans early and keep the air moving. Also, avoid frying on a high flame, specifically garlic and onions. If you fry them on low to medium heat, the smell is less strong, but it is still very tasty. Also, you can use air fresheners. Many NRIs use good quality room fresheners or spray after the cooking. And lastly, one user also suggested that he wears a t-shirt only for cooking and then changes it after. Indian spices can stick to clothes very easily, so this small step can actually help reduce the smell around the home. One user said something very important which is noteworthy though. If we Indians can handle the smell of pork being cooked by our Western neighbors, then they should also learn to accept the aroma of Indian food. It's all about mutual respect. And also, don't worry so much. Some people also said that after trying your best with ventilation and filters, don't stress if somebody still complains. You are in your own home, enjoying your own culture. As long as you are not doing anything harmful, there's no reason to feel guilty about. And yes, there were a few jokes too. One person joked that people who complained about Indian food smells are just being racist. While we shouldn't make serious accusations lightly, it's very true that cultural differences should be respected on both the sides. So in the end, living abroad as an Indian means adjusting a little, but not giving up your roots. Indian food is part of who we are. Using simple tools like filters, fans, fresheners, and good manners, we can keep enjoying our home-cooked meals without any trouble. That's it for today. Stay tuned to TimesXP for more such updates.